school district removing honors classes under its new equity and inclusion agenda. But parents say their agenda is putting their kids behind.
I think agendas are being rolled out using the same playbook over and over and over again. It is unclear who this is helping. The school committee has yet to provide metrics and measures of success.
I'm not going to sit through a school district that's not going to give my son a chance to fulfill his dream. The words diversity, equity, and inclusion, like, that's really just radical left language.
That Rhode Island mom you just saw, Ellen Schaefer, joins me now. Ellen, thanks so much for being here. Why would any district remove honors classes that provide these students a competitive edge when they're trying to apply to the best colleges in the country? Why, oh why, would any district remove them?
Well, good morning, and thank you for having me and for asking the question. I think what we're being told is that that there are children who are not getting access to rigorous academics with the same access that other children who are at honors levels are being given. So that's sort of the basics of the rationale, but how it happens in practice really doesn't turn out that way.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense. If people are struggling, if students are struggling, you don't lower the standards and expectations and ability to succeed of the other students. You do something to help raise up the students that are struggling. Why don't administrators in this new woke world get that?
Well, I think that, it's hard for a lot of parents to accept that there's maybe something greater at play that isn't just what we can take at face value. And it seems like really if we want to work in the name of equity, we really need to focus on equal opportunity and having those students. There are some students in a slower lane. They're the ones whose classes were removed first. And we really want to pay attention to those vulnerable children who were given individualized attention from teachers at the pace that they needed to go at, rather than being put in a single classroom with a whole bunch of other students all at different levels. When the teacher has to try to shift gears and attend to each student, it works out much better when they have a very tailored level. And you could have had classrooms with a child who might be needing a little bit of a slower lane or some more structure in one subject area, but in the certain subject that they were in with the honors classes, you could have that child, you could have a child who had some honors classes, maybe an IEP, some slower classes, and then you could have another child in that same classroom that was in all honors classes, but they were getting the tailored curriculum that they needed for that classroom from that teacher. Now it's just everybody in the same classroom. The teacher has to try to address everybody, and it's really not fair to anybody in the class.
We're talking parent to parent right now. I like what one of the students that this affects had to say. Listen.
All this change does is sabotage students' education and backstab the community of families who moved to Barrington so their children could get the best public education in the state.
Ellen, how much more can our kids take? And look what we did to them during the pandemic. We put them behind more 8 balls than you know what to do with, and yet we're doing it again. How much more do our kids have to suffer?
It's a really good question. When I first had this issue brought to my attention, I was looking at other issues. I was going to school committee meetings for entirely different problems, and then this was yet another one piled onto the plate. And when I saw how it cut across all partisan political lines, there's a whole diversity of parents and families involved in this that see this as another problem that our school is facing, another problem that our children are having to suffer through. This was actually rolled out in 2020 as early on in the pandemic. What a time to try to introduce a huge restructuring of the entire school program, a school system that's known as Blue Ribbon, that is known for nationally being highly ranked, and yet they rolled this out for the most vulnerable kids early on in the midst of that chaos. It really wasn't fair to them, and I commend that young man for speaking at the meeting. He really hit the nail on the head.
My late aunt was a teacher at Barrington High there in Rhode Island. She would not be happy to see what is happening in her school. Ellen Schaefer, thank you for your time this morning. We appreciate it.